Let me ask you something. How long have you been waiting to feel ready? Not how long you've been thinking about it or how long you've been telling yourself that this is the year. How long have you been waiting for that feeling of readiness to show up and permit you to move? Because I want you to sit with something uncomfortable. That feeling isn't coming. Not because you aren't capable or because the thing you want isn't possible for you, but because ready is not a feeling that arrives before you move. It's a feeling that gets built by moving. And every day you choose to wait is a vote against the version of yourself you already know you're capable of becoming. And that is what we're getting into today. I'm Caren, and this is The Rewrite, a podcast about finding the courage to pursue the life you already know you're meant to live. Today, we're confronting the one pattern that is costing you more than almost anything else, the habit of talking yourself out of the thing you know you need to do. And we're going to talk about what it actually takes to stop. So here's what I want you to be honest about. You're not stuck because you don't know what to do. You know exactly what to do. You've known for a while now. The calling has been knocking long enough that you could describe it in detail right now if I asked you to. You're stuck because some part of you keeps finding a reason to wait. And here's what makes this so hard to break. The reasons always sound legitimate. I'm too busy right now. The timing isn't right. I need to wait until things settle down. And none of those things are lies exactly. You probably are busy. The timing probably isn't perfect. But here is the truth underneath all of that reasonable language. You are talking yourself out of it. Not because the obstacle is real, but because the inner critic is loud. And you have been listening to it for so long that its voice sounds like your own. The inner critic doesn't show up as fear most of the time. That would be too easy to identify. It shows up as practicality, as the mature, measured voice that says not yet. And you go along because it sounds wise. But what it actually is a pattern, a deeply grooved habit of choosing the familiar over the necessary. And that pattern is not protecting you, it's keeping you exactly where you are. I want to ask you something, and I need you to answer it honestly. Think about the thing you have been putting off, the real thing, not the safe version of it, the actual thing. Now think about how long it has been on the list. Months, a year, longer? Here's what time actually costs you. Not just the progress you haven't made, but the daily weight of carrying something you know you're meant to do and choosing every single day not to do it. That weight is real and you feel it. Even when you're busy enough to push it aside, it is there. And here's the truth. You are busy, but you have always been busy. And the thing you keep postponing has survived every busy season you have had so far, which means this is not a time problem. It's a decision problem. You have not decided. Not really. And until you do, the busyness will always have somewhere to put the energy that belongs to your calling. You tend to talk yourself out of what you need to do, and that might be exactly why it hasn't happened yet. That is not judgment. That is an observation. And the fact that you're still here listening tells me you already know it's true. So here's the question that matters. Are you going to decide or are you going to keep waiting for the version of ready that was never going to show up first? Because the inner critic cannot survive a real decision. It can only survive in the absence of one. And here's what nobody tells you about that voice. It gets louder the closer you get to something real, and that is super encouraging. Not because the calling isn't yours or that you're wrong, but because proximity to something meaningful is exactly what triggers it. It reminds me of the saying, you know you're close when the obstacles gets bigger and the road gets steeper. If you're moving away from your purpose, the inner critic would have nothing to say. It's only when you're getting close that it raises its voice. So if that voice has been getting louder lately, hear this clearly. That is not a warning. That is confirmation that you are moving in exactly the right direction. I want to tell you about someone whose story I keep coming back to when I think about what it actually looks like to refuse to let that inner critic make the final call. Les Brown was born in an abandoned building in Miami, Florida. He and his twin brother were given up for adoption at 6 weeks old and raised by a single woman named Mamie Brown, who had very little but gave everything she had. In fifth grade, Les was held back a grade. He was placed in special education classes and labeled as someone who could not be taught. That label followed him. It shaped how teachers saw him, how the system treated him, and for a long time, how he saw himself. But there was a teacher who refused to let that label be the final word. That teacher told a teenage Les Brown something he carried for the rest of his life. Someone else's opinion of you does not have to become your reality. Les Brown did not have a degree. He didn't have connections or a clear path forward. What he had was a decision, a non-negotiable decision that the label someone else put on him was not the truth about who he was. He started in radio, then politics, then one day in 1986, broke and sleeping on the floor of a shared office because he couldn't afford an apartment. He decided he was going to become a motivational speaker. Not when things got easy, not when he finally felt ready. He decided and then he moved. By the early 1990s, he was one of the highest paid speakers in the country. His message reaching Fortune 500 executives and prison inmates alike, reaching children sitting in the same special education classrooms he once sat in, being told the same things he had once been told. He didn't wait for the inner critic to go quiet. He built an identity so strong through repeated action that the critic eventually lost its grip. His story is extraordinary, but here's what I want you to take from it. The principle that drove him is not reserved for people with extraordinary circumstances. It's available to anyone willing to make the decision before they feel ready, including me. I know what it feels like to have the inner critic sound exactly like wisdom, to have that voice saying not yet feel so reasonable and measured. And I also know what it feels like to finally stop letting that voice make the final call. That is the difference I want you to understand before we move forward, because there is a distinction between genuine discernment and the inner critic dressed up as wisdom. Discernment is rooted in clarity about your calling. It asks, is this the right direction? The inner critic is rooted in fear. It asks, what if I'm not enough for this? Those two questions feel almost identical from the inside, but they're not the same question at all. Every time I sit down to record an episode, that voice is still there. What changed is that I stopped giving it the final vote. I decided, and then I moved in that exact order. And I want that for you too. Here is something practical I want you to actually use, not just hear and move on from. The next time the inner critic shows up and starts talking you out of what you know you need to do, stop and hold two things in your mind at the same time. Think about something you've already done that once felt impossible. It doesn't have to be related to your calling. Maybe it was a fitness goal you finally hit, a financial decision that you pushed through, something you built for your family that required more than you thought you had, or whatever the hard thing is for you that once said you couldn't do and then did anyway. You did it, and you remember what it felt like on the other side of it. That feeling is real, and it belongs to you. Now take that same feeling and point it toward the thing you have been postponing. That is the version of you on the other side of this decision, not someone you have to become from scratch, someone you have already met before in a different situation. Hold that image, let it be real for a moment, and then hold this alongside it. The feeling you're going to carry if you talk yourself out of it again. Not as punishment, as information. Because that feeling, that quiet wait of another day where you choose waiting over moving, you already know what it feels like. You have been carrying it. Hold both of those things at the same time. The life you're building toward and the cost of not building it. And then make a decision. Because the inner critic cannot survive a real decision. It can only survive the absence of one. Before the next episode, here's what I want you to do. Identify one thing the inner critic has been talking you out of most consistently. Write it down, be specific, not something vague. the actual thing. And then write your honest answer to this question. What is the one action the new version of me would not hesitate on that the current version of me keeps postponing? Not a plan, one action. And then do it before you feel ready. And if you want a structured place to do this work, I put together a free 10-week workbook that walks you through everything we have covered in the first 10 episodes of this show. It's completely free, and the link is in the description below. Because the identity does not shift when you finally feel like the new version of yourself. It shifts when you decide to act like the person before the feeling arrives. Thank you so much for being here with me today. If this episode made you uncomfortable, good. That means something in it was true for you. Uncomfortable is not a reason to stop. It is a reason to keep going. Share this episode with someone who needs to hear it, because the person this was meant for might be one share away from you right now. Make sure you're subscribed. New episodes drop every week, and where we're going next continues to build on everything we are doing together. This is The Rewrite, because your story isn't finished yet.